Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Elise. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are here with a very belated version of my 2024 reading goals. It's March, so realistically this should have come out in January. That didn't happen for me, so I'm doing it now before we get to April, which would be technically when I want to do my first quarterly check-in for my goals. So I need to get this out now so that next month when I do the check-in, there's actually goals to look back to. So I have been keeping the goals in mind, even though we're already this far throughout the year. I set them at the beginning of the year. I just haven't had time to make the video and share them with you. So I'm excited to get into that now. And I will say overall, as I was thinking about what I wanted my reading goals to be this year, I decided to pare down the amount of reading goals that I had. Last year, I think I had about like 6 or 7 goals, and that's the most I've ever had for a reading year. I don't regret that. I love that. It really made me target certain things in my reading that I wanted to do and needed the extra push and motivation for. So I'm happy I did it last year. And this year we're doing a little bit of a return to what I normally do, less goals, so I can keep it more open from month to month what I'm needing to read. I noticed last year that at the end of the year, I started to get into that crunch of needing to finish several goals at once. So almost my entire December TBR needed to be filled with books for goals. There were a few seasonal reads that I was able to fit in there, but it was mostly goal reading, and I'm trying to avoid that crunch at the last part of the year again. So we'll see how that actually goes. That means I need to not procrastinate on the goals, and that might be a whole different story. But let's go ahead and get into the goals that I do have. I have 4 specific goals for the year, and then after that, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm thinking of doing like loosely. The first goal that I have for this year is similar to one that I had last year, but it's been slightly modified. That is a goal about reading books that are 500 plus pages. I call them Picante Beef Babies. That is a Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference if you're curious. But last year I had a goal to read 5 of them throughout the year. This year I'm lowering that goal to 3. So I want to read 3 books that are over 500 pages. The reason that I have the goal in the first place is sometimes I can be intimidated by a big book. I get into that habit of thinking about all of the shorter books I could read in the same amount of time. And it's hard for me to think of investing that much in a book if I don't know that I'll love it. And I also noticed that in my best books of the year, I had several of the large books that I had put on my TBR for that goal specifically. So I know I can really enjoy them. So I want to keep reading them. But last year, I read 5. Some were from my TBR, some were from the library, but I read the majority of the ones that I already owned. I don't own a lot of big books, and I think that's because of some of the genres that I like to read from more. They're less likely to have the really big chunksters. So this year I'm cutting it down to only 3 because I think I might own only like 3 or 4, maybe 5 on my TBR in total. So I'm just reading through the ones that I typically have. I might pick up some more along the way, who knows, but I'm going to set it to 3 for this year. My second goal is a new goal for me, and that is to finish 3 complete series. I don't do a ton of series reading, but I do read from series from time to time, and I want to make sure I don't get behind on them. Now, this is also me being influenced by a lot of other booktubers that I watch who are very behind on their series reading goals, and they're constantly talking about how they start so many series and can't catch up. I don't want to get in that position, so I just want to have a goal to finish 3. Again, I don't read a lot, so finishing 3 would like basically catch me up on almost all of the series that I'm in, but I want to get through them. So just to say right off the bat, some of the ones I'm thinking of completing or potentially using for this challenge, I have a few options. Firstly, I have the book right here so I can show you because I'm about to film a book haul in a minute, but the last book in the Tea Dragon series came out in February. Yes, February. Spoiler, I have already read this, so you'll be seeing it in my wrap up for the month. But this one is the third. It's the last book. So I finished this series this year, and I was planning on this being a series that I would finish. So that is one of them. I also plan on finishing the Sherlock Holmes series this year for my vlogging series. So I would imagine that's also pretty a shoo-in, but I have 4 more books to read in that this year. And then some other series that I'm in are the Wolf Den trilogy. I've read the first one, I loved it. I have 2 books on my TBR, but I haven't gotten to them yet, so I'm hoping this will help me prioritize reading them before I forget too much about the first book. So I have both of those. Those are The House with the Golden Door and The Golden Temple. They're by Elodie Harper. So that could be an option for me. I'm also 2 books deep into a middle grade series. I think The Deceivers is the first one. Oh no, The Strangers is the first one, I'm sorry. And then The Messengers is the second one. I've read both of those. The Deceivers is the third and the final one. So it would only take 1 book to finish off that series. I think those are the main ones I'm currently in. There might be a couple more, but I would like to finish 3 of them. So that's the goal that we're gonna have for this year. Finish off 3 complete series. So that isn't just making progress like up to where it is currently. So ongoing series aren't going to matter. For example, the Veronica Speedwell series, I'm gonna read the latest book this year, but it's not done. So I have to complete, like fully complete series. So that is goal number 2. Goal number 3 is a goal that I have every year. I will continue to have this goal every year, and that is read 1 translated book a month. I always have this. I always say that I keep it because I want to consistently be picking up translated books. I don't want to be reading them just at certain points of the year in like larger chunks. I want to consistently be in a habit of picking them up. So I always keep this goal around. It tends to be a pretty easy goal for me to do, but I never want to get rid of it just in case. And I will just say right up front that I'm not doing a percentage of my reading translated goal this year like I did last year. I think I was trying to read 30% of the books that I was reading be translated, and I read 36% last year, which is great. The reason why I don't have this year is 1, I'm trying to reduce the amount of goals that I have, and 2, something in the back of my mind, this isn't a strict goal that I have here, is I want to be getting through some of the backlist books on my shelves. And I will just say my buying habits from 5+ years ago were much different than my buying habits now. And a lot of those books are not translated because I bought them from thrift stores. That's how I used to buy my books, and that has changed. I brought this up in, I think, my last video, that's a whole other story. Like, there's no shade on people that buy their books from thrift stores. I get it. I was doing that. But yeah, my buying habits have just changed a little bit. So those books are much more like commercial books. Very few of them are translated, but there are still a good amount that I don't want to get rid of without at least trying them. So I'm going to try and prioritize getting to some of those books and kind of like flushing out my shelves a little bit. My hope is that I will enjoy them, but there's probably going to be less translated books that I'll be getting to this year. I still hope to get to a good amount, but probably less than last year because I'm trying to get through some of these backlist titles when my reading was a little bit different. So 3rd goal, again, read 1 translated book a month. And then my last goal, and this is another one that I've had for the last 2 years now, and that is trying to get my books in to match my books out. This is the one goal that I have not done the past 2 years, and I'm really hoping 3rd time's a charm for this one. I often reference that my way of tracking this is a little bit convoluted, and I get that, but it works well for me. So my books in are all of the physical books that I bring into my house, my TBR, of my own volition. So this could be books that I buy. This could be books that I pull from the little free libraries close to me. Even if I didn't pay for it, if I'm willingly choosing to bring it in, I'm counting that as a book in on my tracking spreadsheet. And then the books out are only the physical books from my TBR that I have read to completion. That doesn't include DNFs that I then unhaul. It doesn't include books that I borrow from the library that I read. It doesn't include books that I borrow from somebody else in my life that I read. Only books from my TBR and only books that I've read to completion. Now, that might sound crazy to some of you, but it works for me. There's a little bit of a give and take because I don't count gifted books coming in, and that makes up for me not counting the books that I'm DNFing and then unhauling. And I would say I definitely DNF and unhaul more often than I get gifted books. So it's moving in the right direction. This is just kind of the way I want to track it because I do want to mainly see if I can read the amount that I'm actually bringing in. So that's why I count completed read books instead of just attempted books. And I've said before that I don't want to track gifted books in because I want those to just be like a joyful gift. I don't want to start getting concerned about that ruining the numbers for me or anything like that. So that's why I track it that way. Hopefully that makes sense to you, but it's okay if it doesn't. That is the last goal, and I am really going to try and get this goal this year. That's partly why I don't have a lot of other goals, is this one I'm gonna hit hard on and really try to meet it. I've said before that my goals, in a good way, are very motivating for me, and I want to meet them. So at the end of the year, I'm gonna try my hardest to make sure I actually do it. They're not just like kind of intentions that I'm throwing out there, which I love that for you if that's what you do, but mine are like, no, I really want to push myself to do certain things with my reading every year, and this is one of them. I want to make sure that my books aren't unmanageable. I like having a big TBR, but I just wanna make sure, can I actually read all of the books that I'm bringing in, because I want to read them. So I want to make sure that at the very least that is possible. So those are the 4 goals that I have for 2024, and I feel great about them. And I will say the last thing I just want to mention before the end is the final reason for reducing the amount of specific goals that I have for this year is I would like to do more in the moment challenges. I, again, find myself sort of hitting crunch time in certain months depending on how I like to structure my reading. So for example, the last half of the year tends to get very packed. So in August, I do Women in Translation Month, so I read a decent amount of women in translation on my TBR for that month. In October, I read all spooky related books or Halloween related books. So every book on my TBR has to meet that theme. In November, I like to read some in nonfiction November. In December, I like to do some seasonal Christmas, holiday, wintry related reading. So there are things that naturally come up in my reading that I want to have the space to do and not have a lot of other books packed into those TBRs. But also there are challenges that I wanted to do that I just don't have time for. So for example, I want to do a video where I track how much I actually read in a week, so I can see for myself like how many hours do I spend reading in a given week. I want to do challenges where I'm able to do more like specific TBR, like themed TBR and vlog related videos, and I don't have much time for that with all of the specific goals, so I'm trying to free it up a bit. So if you have a specific themed video that you would like me to do, please let me know down below in the comments, and I'll try to see if I can fit that in and if I'm interested in it in the first place. So we shall see how this year goes, but I have a good feeling about 2024. I'm excited to have a little bit more freedom in my goals, and please let me know if you have any reading goals for 2024. I'd love to hear them. I'm always on the lookout for some good goals for future years. And thank you for watching this video. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.